Muted.
Mute everybody. So welcome to one of our great virtual reality webcasts today. So it's about virtual reality, it's about the landscape, and about the presentation techniques we want to talk today about. Good. So our webcast has a bit of an agenda. What we would like to present. And so basically, first, I want to talk a little bit about what A2K is. I hope that you may know already about A2K because you have received probably an invitation. But then we immediately actually want to jump onto virtual reality, what virtual reality is, what hardware and software is actually currently out there, what the virtual reality business is actually about, and also some presentation techniques, which probably part E is probably the part which might take actually the longest actually. Today is just a bit about an introduction about virtual reality because we want to maybe clarify a little bit the one or the other topic and shed a bit of a light into the myth about virtual reality. So good. In regards our other webcasts, which are actually coming up, next one is on the 5th of June and the other one is on the 4th of July. The reason for this is that the whole topic about virtual reality wouldn't actually fit in one webcast. So hence we actually created actually a series out of 3 of those. The first webcast, the one from today, is a bit more about an introduction. So if you're an enthusiast about virtual reality, you probably will find that it might be a little bit shallow, maybe even also for you. Good. So are there any questions so far at this point? No, just double checking. No questions are actually around here. And so we were connected with audio. This should work as well. Good. Good. About A2K Technologies, we industry-leading solutions provider about applications in terms of visualization, communication of CAD application, used for CAD, building information modeling, simulation, and others. And working here also with Autodesk, most likely being a platinum partner, not only with Autodesk, but also with Bluebeam and others. Good. Then what's the whole idea is, so basically we want to help you guys to do a better job. We want to look after your tools and we want to train you on the tools that you are actually more efficient because you are the subject matter experts about engineering, architecture. You do a great job and we would like to be basically a provider for the tools. Got a big portfolio, goes all around that. We support also you guys with IT. We support you in workflows when it comes to data exchange, going from CAD applications, going into databases, going into document management systems, going and working also with the training and also with auditing and also HR and recruiting actually in your company. If you want to put an analogy to it, you could basically say, well, they are butchers, they're selling the steaks, so it's basically you, and we're looking after your tools, we're looking after the knives to keep them actually sharp. Good. To myself, I'm with A2K for the last 7.5 years, looking after all the application terms of BIM visualization and simulation, structural engineer in the back. I have in looking basically after all Revit platforms, but also actually engineering platforms, Paint, Nastron, Inventor, and others. I'm also looking after 3ds Max visualization because simulation visualization, they actually work hand in hand, and hence have the honor today to talk a little bit about virtual reality and to guide us through. The advantages, or I may say it's a bit actually a fun part because I'm about rendering and visualization in VR, actually a bit enthusiast, and I basically I'm spending time with it spend time.
Muted.
We want to talk about the first topic is here VR as communication instrument, what actually the meaning, the terminology is. I want to put this in because often when we talk about virtual reality, we think it's something new, it's something buzzy, it's just something we do now, we have now, and it's just maybe the latest gadget from Facebook, or it's the latest gadget from HTC, or when we buy a Samsung, we get the Samsung gear actually with it, and it's absolutely new. Virtual reality itself is actually not new, what we actually see. That's actually around for a couple of centuries, you would even say. So going back, humanity almost tried to put itself in another world, and always tried to create actually a world. You can certainly say that the computer had the biggest major impact actually into the whole virtual reality realm. But the vision of creating an illusion or an artificial world actually exists for a long, long time. They started it early in the 15th century, 16th century, actually through paintings and others. The computer is relatively old, as we know, and so the whole system of a computer started actually 30s and 40s. However, with the mainstream of a computer 60s, 70s, it obviously also took over. We see here that the computer was basically used to create actually geometry, or the computers being used to drive head-mounted displays, also called HMDs. For that, we had the first head-mounted displays actually in the 60s, going back, so after Morton, Heilig, and Zarama. We see with virtual reality here and there in the past that it always had a lot of uptakes and a lot of downtakes, and it was accepted and it was not accepted. And the challenge we actually had was because of the hardware. It was actually because of the hardware and because of the software not really working together. It was always a bit of extravagant development. Hence, it was always really tricky and very, very freaking complicated. What's the difference to the nowadays times? Well, it basically means that virtual reality is still an illusion, but the difference what we actually have is that we have virtual reality actually the first time mainstream supported actually with an operating system. The only operating system which does it is actually Windows 10, and that offers completely different options actually. So virtual reality is an illusion, yes, and it's now, you could say, it's actually a computer-generated scenario that simulates experience. So we want to convey, and that's why hence we should see virtual reality as communication instrument, because we actually not only want to communicate using words or a touch, we actually want to communicate with the whole experience, and an experience cannot be 1,000 times richer than just any words or maybe any paintings or any drawings. You probably remember that there's maybe a bit of a word out, or a bit of there's a bit of idea out that you say there about 1,000 words equals a drawing, but you could say probably that one virtual experience is probably worth about 1,000 drawings, basically. So it basically means 1,000,000 words actually out there. When we look into the technology, on how the technology is here being used, we actually find also
Muted.
And this actually means that virtual reality, that the tools, the hardware being used actually also became actually smaller. With this, we also have a broader development with it, where augmented reality and actually also mixed reality actually came also on board. So I've just put them here a little bit underneath our virtual reality explanation. And augmented reality, when you come across this, it basically means that we connect with the real world environment and overlay the real world environment with the virtual environment. So we actually blur the artificial world we actually create and set up with the real world. Just think of Pokemon Go, maybe some of these gadgets or some of these tools which some kids play, or even in others play, actually, maybe also in the bus or in the public transport in the morning to work. And with this, you have here an interaction where the computer actually responds to the real world, to real world environments, which is awesome, which is good. Question is just
muted.
Add on human interactions, which is being recognized by the computer. So what does this mean? The computer recognizes my gestures, my hand, my voice, or even others, and actually acts to it. And now we actually have, first we have our artificial world. We can actually program, we can model, we can create. We have the interaction with the real world through augmented reality, and but we can actually also drive this, and we can actually also manipulate our artificial world and our information with it, attached with it, through our hand gestures, or through our input actually. So which means makes it actually a really, really great system. And with Windows 10, mixed reality is integrated, so we have all tools available. So hopefully for a great platform. Good. So having all these tools available is great. Let's have a little bit of a look around what tools are actually available. Which tools we would find, for instance, here mainstream. So hence, talking a little bit about hardware and software. If you, again, you will find yourself, if you're an enthusiast, you probably will find that it's a little bit thin. Yes, I understand. Come back to even maybe then to some of the other webcasts if you wanted to. I promise you that some of the next ones we even look into some programming and even into some coding maybe here and there, what we actually can do. Good. So for all those new here and wanted to lift the veil about virtual reality, we have here a couple of hardware and software examples I want to show. We see here, for instance, first actually our mobile phone in our Gear VR. We see definitely a trend with the hardware that the hardware must or shall become more compact and shall become easier to access. With the nowadays smartphones, be it, for instance, in how it was being built, or how the construction or how the whole layout was introduced by Apple at this point, going back maybe to the iPhone, or in general the vision of having a smartphone, going back maybe even to Nokia, to the Nokia Communicator 9000 and others, maybe if some remember, or even some Windows phones, which were out long before actually Apple actually came up to produce a phone. We want to have our gadgets, we want to have the hardware and the software, the intelligence, where we can outsource our data, we can outsource our communication. We want to have this handy. And so why not using actually this also for the communication of virtual reality? And hence, I think it's absolutely awesome to have this just in your pocket, put it maybe quickly in front with a tiny case. Wear it with a case, put it in front of your nose, in front of your eyes, then you can communicate it. So it's the strongest trend, what we actually find, what we actually see in the world. Good. We find here on the left bottom here, good old Oculus from Facebook. It's a little bit of a very simple head face. So a head-mounted display you can wear on your face. The advantage is it's very light. Hence, it is also simple. So if you want to have any, luxury to adjust maybe anything around and about your eyes, it might be a little bit tricky for that. If you travel, it's quite cool because it's lightweighted. I have it myself for traveling, and yeah, well, it doesn't look that nice anymore, like we have it here in the pictures. You find also when in our virtual reality, and when we actually want to immerse into our artificial world, that we need to communicate somehow with our artificial world. And here we actually still use actually some joysticks, or we use Here some grips and some tools being recognized by the computer, and where we actually convey our input and our instructions to the computers. The same thing actually also here, a little bit further to the right, what we find with the HTC set. It's probably the more successful set. What I really like is the very good and very accurate and very fast representation of any changes in scenes and updates actually on the display. I think it's very professional. It's what I would, for instance, when I would have been, if I would be an architecture company, maybe low budget, what you actually can consider. But actually, regards this, stay tuned. It actually is one tiny little downside. That's why all three are actually here a little bit on the bottom. For that, we find here on the right-hand side a version from Sony. Nice little entry head-mounted display set if you want to do some games on your PlayStation. The key is I need to have it accessible, and here we actually have what I would love to have as well, or what I would suggest everybody to buy if you want to jump onto it, because it became finally available as here our Hewlett-Packard virtual reality set, which is actually being based on the mixed reality platform from Microsoft and on Windows 10. All the bottom ones, they are still bound to drivers, external drivers and external development. And this puts it just one step away from the common operating system, from the operating system itself we are using, and it's not that well organized. So with our HP, we are actually on the base of Windows 10, we can experience virtual reality, and you literally just wear it and you experience it. You don't have to worry about any setups. You don't have to worry of any random drivers or any random weird stuff. You have to reinstall, you have to download or something, so it actually works quite nice. Also, for instance, with the HTC, so it was probably my favorite one for the last 5 years. The HTC still has some sensors which are not actually being shown here on this picture, but the HP actually gets this here through the camera, which is actually pretty good. Where does this technology comes from? We actually find here on the right-hand side our Microsoft solution actually here with the HoloLens, which does a full mixed reality setup actually here on the right-hand side, and it's actually a full glass actually with the full computer, and you say we don't need to wear any gadgets. It recognizes actually our hands, what we are actually doing. It recognizes actually through the cameras actually the environment. It knows where it is. We don't have any setup. Of course, it's a little bit more weighty, but I think on this we are on a good progress actually here, and so it's very exciting what tools we actually find, what tools we actually see. Good. I have here some numbers from 2016, a while back. I wanted to put up the numbers just in regards of the trend. And so the trend is certainly that we want to go towards mobile phones and that we want to actually have it handy. So the development from Microsoft is actually pretty cool to have a tiny computer you actually wear quickly on your head. But again, it needs to be supported. We need to have one general platform everybody agrees to develop on, because otherwise the gadgets and the tools are not being used, unfortunately. So it's from the market, it's very important that we have here a support. And biggest support, of course, is where the masses are. And this is actually what we see with 84 million, it was in 2016, 2 years ago, was actually here with the Google Cardboard box. So we were using just mobile phones, and people could experience it. Was at this point, I think there was enough time for people to play actually with virtual reality and to start warming up with the virtual reality, because it takes a bit of a practice to warm up, I may admit. Not everybody is keen to spend hours over hours on our using this hardware, wearing this hardware in the artificial space. because people can become motion sick for this. So you also need to look into some of the hardware, into some of the solutions. You need to wear it comfortably. It should be easy, accessible. You don't want to take a loan actually to buy it, and when you want to wear it, it should be also ready just for a quick experience actually as well, if somebody is actually not so comfortable. And so hence we want to maybe focus maybe here a little bit also in our promo on two gadgets. One is here our HP, and the other one is actually a computer you can actually wear as a backpack. It's like a cool laptop you can wear on your backpack so that you don't have to trip over any cables. It also looks pretty stylish if you want to have a little bit more comment on it on the side. So it reminds me of some really nice cool older Apple designs. In terms of virtual reality, we see that a lot of companies are actually building and working with it. So even companies you might have never actually ever thought that they actually work with it. So certainly companies like Oculus or Sony, for instance, the tools and the platforms, maybe also Facebook, but actually also Sennheiser or others, they actually work with it. We will talk a little bit more about Unity in some of our other webcasts, and of course about Autodesk as well, what they actually offer, and some of the examples we actually want to also see. Good. So, which means one of the first examples is here actually our A360 experience with Autodesk. We want to a little bit have a first look into how we can actually present, how do we want to communicate actually our designs with it. Then we actually swap and switch a little bit to Enscape. So swap our experience. A little bit later on, then also talking about live and also understanding the difference actually between live and actually Enscape, what they actually do here as an application. So we see here easily access. Just imagine we have a couple of cardboard boxes, get a couple of create for a couple of dollars with your company logo on it and give it to our clients. They can experience it with the mobile phone. And so, and then later in our webcast, of course, we want to talk about 3ds Max Interactive, and of course about Unity actually as well. And also what here the difference is, some people say they cannibalize each other. I say no, absolutely not. Different developments, different directions, different workflows, different, maybe even different markets actually for this. So, and there, I would say it's a great composite. So probably if somebody feels I twist the fingernails, sorry, I think it's a good composite. So, and good. So, what's the return on the virtual reality business? Don't forget about this as well. Virtual reality is not only used actually in the architectural or in the engineering or in the marketing. We have actually in my research a couple of some real cool stuff actually what we can do with these gadgets inside disorder treatment, for instance, we actually also some pain management. So we have this also in the house. Just think of this wherever we have an artificial world, we can use to communicate experiences. We communicate with experiences. We communicate actually visions. Actually, the 4 rates are highlighted. These are probably our ones we are most into it. Be it, for instance, the education, be it the training, be it the engineering, be it, for instance, also especially the architecture, the urban design. So when we look into the ecosystem industry, but actually also in the industrial design, manufacturing, car manufacturing, plant industry, process industry, that you can actually use this also for the facility management and training and others. Of course, we can actually use this actually as well. Good. So just a simple small case study. For instance, if you're an architecture company, let's call it maybe companies called ABC Spices. Just I don't know actually if the company exists. So sorry if I just randomly invented your name. So we have, for instance, a preparation for a demonstration, and it was given that stakeholder and new apartment owners that they actually can have a say about the layout. They want to experience it, and that's actually the most and the biggest thing is that not everybody is actually used to read plans, to work from plans. people have different gifts, and this is we need to actually acknowledge, we need to accept, we need to yeah, we need to incorporate in our solutions. Not everybody can actually read a plan, so let's offer them a bit of an experience. And so even if you have maybe a little bit of an investment, all right, let's say, for instance, that architects and draftees that or engineers, they have an average maybe a charge out rate of $175. If I just have a little bit of a less rework for that, and actually maybe even keep the budget, or even maybe be better than the budget, I actually can have an easy return and have just with one job actually some really cool savings actually out there. So also in terms of efficiency, just do the numbers, just measure your efficiency, measure how much faster you are at, how much better people can understand actually the vision and actually also their design and have their say. Later on, we maybe want to show some examples where we stick a little bit with this example and give others the opportunity even to experience their environment, colorize, set the color for their own walls, and maybe even bring it actually back into Revit, all possible. And so I've developed there some scripts, and you can actually just read out. You can just use Dynamo or BIMlink and bring the data actually then back into Revit and update your materials. Good. So sweet. So let's talk a little bit about the demos. Let's come a little bit on the second half. We are perfect on the time, on the dot, coming to the second half of it, talking a bit about some demos and some tools. And so what was here? Our first demo was actually here, A360 rendering for that. So I have just brought up here a little bit of a website, and you can actually immediately experience some of the renderings others actually have done here. So if you recognize maybe here your own one, so welcome, good job. Watch out here for the symbol. So we see here a tiny cardboard symbol, and when we have these cardboard symbols, they offer you and provide you actually with the link, and you can or with a QR code we find, for instance, on the left and bottom, and you can just share this QR code actually with your clients, and they can actually immediately step in. So is it quite difficult to create these type of renderings? Good news, no, it isn't. Actually, absolutely not. You can just literally just press 2-3 buttons, and then you can actually create these wonderful great renderings. And just again, or you just would need to set up materials and actually lights, which means you need to know a little bit about family modeling. That's maybe it. Good, but we know that Revit is not about drafting, it's a BIM authoring tool, so hence we know that we have a good, great template, and we want to set up our materials because we want to convey and communicate actually what's all about. Good, so here, for instance, when we go into our Revit, we just go here to the View tab, for example, and as soon as we make use here render in the cloud, we would have this option actually available. I'll show you this live in a second. And you just choose that you want to have a stereo panorama setting. It fires it off to the Autodesk Render Cloud, and then you just log in on your gallery.autodesk.com, and you can review your rendering and send out the links and share actually the results with anybody and everybody. So the setup, of course, look into the materials and the lights, because otherwise the computer doesn't know how the material should look like. So if you keep it just like in a sketchy background, just for fun here a little bit, that's not how we actually should just keep it. So please set up your materials, set up your lights, and then with the objects, and then set up your cameras, and then you can actually export it. Because here with the 3D views, we can actually also choose actually how many cameras you want to actually render. So you can actually more cameras actually at the same time. Good. Then export it to A360 to our cloud rendering and let Autodesk do the job for you. Good. How does it look like? So as the end result, as mentioned, we get here our QR code. You can scan it, which actually leads to a hyperlink to your browser, and your mobile phone will split the screen when you turn it around, have it a landscape, and you can put it into your cardboard box. So first cool experience. Can you walk around? Does it update? No, not at this. Not with the A360 Stereo Rendering. It's just basically static, just in one spot. Can you look up and down, left and right, turn 360 degrees? Yes, in all directions. So the common example, the advanced example, what we see, I've just sent to the cloud, and actually just create a really nice, cool experience, and makes actually a lot of fun. So, so let me quickly double check if we can actually click there. Somewhere we have here our Revit actually up and running. So that was basically just our random example project. We can just here quickly open up and have a quick first look on how we can actually access this. Just a simple view as mentioned. And of course, when we, for instance, have here some materials, we need to double check that, for instance, we have some materials basically here in the walls. You have a structure. Which material asset is actually important actually here? So when we go here, for instance, let's go to the finish here, for example. Come on, be nice. It's actually not the graphics which actually governs. It's actually the appearance we actually have here to the right. So, and so if you never have had a play with it, come maybe on a Revit Advanced training or on some render training, or just ask. And we see actually that the wall is being here known and interpreted basically here also as some thermal barrier, probably as a concrete wall, as like we would find what we would expect actually on this wall. And here actually the diffuse maps, these bump maps, this information being driven either through a vector or through an image. This needs to be just set up. But I have good news. Autodesk has a lot of experience through its media entertainment, and we have already some cool materials which actually kind of get you there. And you can just make use of a lot of these materials and just basically drag and drop them actually in. Sometimes we get this comment or hear this comment that says, yeah, they look a little bit childy or a little bit, they miss out a little bit. Certainly, every material can be a little bit fine-tuned, but I would say use them. We get some really nice, good results. It's probably more some render or light settings, which often actually destroy the rendering. One thing is, for instance, when it comes to the lights, do me a favor, don't use any self-illuminated materials. That's really not nice. So this is, you don't get any good illumination out of self-illuminated materials. Good. So, for instance, we have here also a light with this. For instance, when we edit quickly my family, make use of a real light. So no self-illuminated materials. Make use of a real light. Ideally, my favorite one is actually here using some nice cool web files, photometric web files, because just that's the perfect, it's the real light distribution, like we would actually find it actually in the real world actually as well. So then we can actually get some good results. So by the way, I spend a couple of minutes on it because this governs for any presentation. Doesn't matter if you use actually also our next gadget, if you use, for instance, Enscape. Good, that's my presentation, how it looks like. Where's actually the other presentation? Oh, it's gone. Good, never mind. So this would be, for instance, also that we have here our Enscape. We actually have available. Enscape is actually a plugin for Revit, which allows a real-time visualization. Awesome tool, great results if you have set up materials and lights. The computer can't just guess what you want to display. Unfortunately, even artificial intelligence can't do this. It's just a program, computer program, just a program application. So we see some really nice cool results. With it, you can actually also download. It's actually also available not only for Revit, but actually in case if you're still doomed by SketchUp or by Rhino, you can actually get this here up and running as well. We see here that they also advertise some of the other tools we just have seen before, like announced the HTC or the Oculus. Kind of the head-mounted display sets kind of from the last 5 years, kind of the last generation, I would say. Yes, having still HMD of the last generation myself, can happen. If you have one left, give me one of the new HP headsets. They're really cool because they're easy and simple to set up. So if you want to drive this now with Revit, let's have a quick look what it would do. Come on, where's my Revit? Here it is. Let's go, for instance, here just to this view, and we find, for instance, here Enscape a little bit here on the top, running installs with a new tab. Really cool, really great. We see here we want to also enable here actually our headset, which is great. You just basically click a button, and it's all what you actually would need to do. It's actually super simple. When we go here to our start actually our presentation, we see that an application in the backend fires up, being built on a gaming engine. Enscape allows me now to experience this. In terms of the features, what is different to what Revit does not have yet? Revit offers me to do a walkthrough, do a camera fly through. Yes, Enscape offers me the same thing as well. Revit offers me a real-time rendering while I walk through. Yes, Enscape does this actually as well. What's the difference? The difference is that Enscape actually makes use of the graphic card during the rendering. So some of the real-time rendering can be actually much faster than just conventional CPU rendering. And we see, for instance, now when we, for instance, browse through, that we see that certainly it needs to catch up a little bit, but no, I'm just waiting a little bit till the audience view actually catches up. But we see, for instance, that this actually literally runs live. And so when I want to present it actually with my architectural workstation, with my desktop in my presentation room, the client can actually have the first experience. In addition, when I allow here my my client to experience this actually with a nice background, then it actually and actually also in virtual reality in a real nice cool environment, then we can actually then we can actually satisfy our client. Good. So also here, for instance, as a camera path, we can set up our camera path. Same thing what Revit actually can do as well. We can save the rendering. So you could say it's a fast real-time renderer. Additionally, we can actually also export a presentation here with the environment as an exe file for the client. So if you want to send this out, unfortunately, you need a bit of a grunty workstation for this. So it does not work just on an iPad, unfortunately. Doesn't work. You can I have a better solution for this. If you want to have a more interactive solution for the client, interactive presentation, then it would be Revit Live we want to look into. Good. Enscape offers us a couple of settings, as we will see. This is about my general look and feel, exposure, field of view settings. It leads me also to run through some color temperatures to tell my story. Is it in the evening? Is it in the morning? Colors actually change here. We can actually also work different skybox files, which is basically an HDR file, high definition range image file. And let's say, for instance, let's load, for instance, here this night file actually in and see what it does. And just need to go quickly here to prop select. It should now actually update with my nice file. And then the lights are on. This is good. I like this one. And we should actually see a little bit of a different night scene actually here on the outside. And we can do this actually in real time with a common gaming key environment. So again, so click, 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 run through wherever you want to go. Fly around, fly up, see it from all sides. So that's actually pretty good. So in terms of the whole input, not everybody wants to have the same mouse settings. So if you want to have to invert some of the axes, we can do this as well, actually, if you want to actually capture something. If you want to render maybe any animations here, works good, but I definitely would suggest to spend maybe $3,000 on some really good graphic cards. Maybe 2 1080 Ti's would be probably my dream, because otherwise you wait a long time for that. But as we know, animation in general take a long time. Good. So let's close this. Let's close our Enscape. So basically with Enscape, we have our first easy virtual reality actually experience on this environment. It's just basically how I can present it. I can easily present it. And that's actually also the topic here from this webcast. So hence we want to, and I wanted to demonstrate here actually our Enscape as a solution for that. Good. So let's close this thing for that, and let's jump a little bit ahead, and let's go a little bit further. So let's see what else we actually have here. Good. We have seen Enscape as just summing up Enscape as a presentation tool, and but don't forget again, of course, Revit has here an interactive mode actually as well. But again, it's CPU driven. The Enscape, I think it's GPU driven, so you see it's a little bit faster. But you need to have a grunty machine, and take care when you do it with the laptops. You need to have a good cooling for that when you do it with the laptops. So gaming laptops like some MSI or some HP gaming laptops, they're probably then the better choice to go for. If you try to do this with a Microsoft Surface, it's probably not ideal. Good. So compare basically physically based materials. Also with Enscape, we drive this physically. So basically we run this in real time. Hence, I actually won't need to set this up actually in Revit. We need a strong workstation. And we have also an A360 like stereo output. Actually here with Enscape can do this as well. But again, just press a button, takes a bit of a while to render it. I probably would prefer actually to send it off to the Autodesk cloud just for the sake of speed and the ease of access, because I can easily access a link somebody else can access from anywhere else in the world, so I don't have to share any big crazy stereo files, so which might be a little bit larger. Good, simple VR experience presented. It's a bit of a game-like experience. That's awesome, and we can actually also do an export. So it's actually pretty cool. What we can do it here. Good. So next one is using actually live. What's the difference to live? Live actually offers us to convert the whole scene into a gaming environment. So live is being built on this Project Stingray technology or 3ds Max Interactive technology, and so we actually convert the whole project. So literally the whole building is being converted into a project you can actually alter, you can change, you can manipulate, you can make interactive, and that's really awesome. This is really genius-like. We can actually then also present this on stronger mobile phones. I've seen that in the meantime it works. We can actually also then make this interactive and present this, of course, on other mixed reality tools actually as well. What is the downside? The downside is actually, as we see here in these windows, that this unfortunately needs to be converted. So why does it need to be converted? Because a gaming environment where you have fast interactions, it doesn't allow for constant real-time renderings. You need to work, we need to prepare this, we need to pre-render, pre-digest this a little bit for for this environment. Hence, we need to export and need to convert it actually from physical materials actually into to use it with shaded materials, and actually also, but with shaded lights ideally. Interactive, 3ds Max Interactive understands also photometric lights, so for the perfect light experience, but also it needs to be baked, this light. So kind of this means it needs to be pre-rendered for this, because otherwise the computer wouldn't be able to keep up actually with this speed. Good. So this is how actually then live actually would look like. So I have here just brought Autodesk Live into here in front of Revit. What else we can do is actually we can play a little bit here with the sun settings. We can play a little bit with the shadows. We can prepare already views and impressions. We can actually get it ready actually for the client. And so we get a whole presentation we can actually assemble, and we can get actually ready for our client. You maybe remember Showcase in the past, which was discontinued in 2015, but a bit like on this level, we can actually digest and tell actually our story. We have also different styles here available when we want to present actually our design. And yeah, let's we should have a tiny quick look into this. Before we go there, quickly what's here the difference. We use here physically based materials with Revit. It's just how the materials are being set up, how the materials are being calculated and computed. Doesn't have a big influence on you on how you define the materials. So it's still driven by maps or by a vector map. It's just how the material is actually being computed and how the information is available and accessible. Again, materials and lights need to be set up. The computer can't guess what we want to actually present. Hence, we have here shaded materials and also our shaded lights then within Live. The big advantage is you can literally run it anywhere and from anywhere. And so any simple desktop actually can drive it, because it is basically pre-digested. And so it can actually have easy access. The next big advantage is that it's actually a 3ds Max interactive project, where you actually can change and alter actually the code, which literally gives you no limitation whatsoever on this presentation. What's the key for this? Well, you need to actually learn 3ds Max Interactive. That's the only thing. Can't change it. No pain, no gain. Good. So let's have a quick look how we can actually fire up. For instance, here Live, and where we actually would find this actually in Revit actually as well. We find this here on our view settings. Some of you might find here, the circle here, this go live. And as soon as I, for instance, here click into just go live something, then the dialog actually here would come up and would actually first double check my scene, and I actually can then actually upload this. So I have prepared actually our scene already, and somewhere we should find an Autodesk Live application then once installed, and then we should see actually our great tool. So we have here the scene I have prepared already. Didn't take long, just took a few minutes actually to convert this. So if somebody thinks if I send it off, if this takes then 2, 3, 4 hours, no, it doesn't. It just was 5 minutes or 10 minutes maximum, less than a coffee break. And it's good. Have this, for instance, here. But if this happens, we can actually quickly go back to our view here. So this is cool. So we see, for instance, here we can browse and experience actually here also our model. We see actually our trees nicely popping actually through. We can actually also tap and go, which is a little bit a nice game-like environment. And important is that not everybody is actually used to gaming neither. So we need to have an environment everybody can run anywhere and everywhere from any device. And as simple the device is is better actually. So we see now it just was tapping actually on the top floor. We see that the door automatically actually opens up, and this interaction reminds us a little bit actually on Navisworks, which is and was a little bit, or is still actually a little bit, the gaming engines for the engineers or for the project managers. And where we have, for instance, also this interaction to open a door as soon as actually walk close, that the door opens basically up, and I actually can walk through my presentation, which was 10 years ago. Absolutely awesome and marvelous that we could do this. I don't know if many actually made use of this. Good. So we have, for instance, here actually our nice code rendering presentation. What we see with some of the occlusions is some of the area shadows. They're a little bit less at this point, just because of this model actually. So not being added on automatically, just to keep it a little bit more simple. But if you, because the area shadows, or also through which you would achieve through some final gathering of the light, would change actually from the position. Obviously, you are, and this would need to be calculated, computed live, and it can't really be pre-digested for that. Good. We have some additional options, for instance, to talk and share, for instance, about any information, for instance, of this object as well. So this is what we don't have in Enscape. So because Enscape is just a presentation, fast real-time renderer for Revit add-on, if somebody wants to share some information with the client, we can actually have here the option to work here with Revit Live, actually available actually in the AEC collection. For that. Good. Also here we have a few settings, for instance, with your field of view, your travel speed, and actually also the height where you are. Turn on, turn off actually the lights. What I actually like pretty much is actually if you want to have a bit of a play actually with the sun. So let's say, for instance, let's make it a little bit, so a bit of a sun with it, and then you can actually easily play. So the script they have here added on via 3ds Max Interactive is actually pretty much a lot of fun. It's actually pretty cool, and I like this type of interaction. So simple interaction which allows the client actually to bond with it, to make the right decision. And how often were you wondering about shadows and where the sun would be actually be, and how it might actually affect actually your whole design actually for that. And yeah, being programmed through a couple of Lua scripts via interactive, and just being made available. Use it anytime. So also through different seasons, and also can do this, for instance, as well. Now it's getting a little bit more windish, and automatically the lights actually turn on. It's a nice, cool presentation for that. Working, for instance, also with different styles here, being built in by default. If somebody likes a bit more a white style, white style, can actually have a bit play with it. For instance, also maybe more darker paper to tell the story, which gives the client also a little bit of a room to make a little bit some decisions. And so brilliant. Here we are, for instance. Then we can actually walk around with live. This can also be exported. So basically, we can actually also publish the scene. There was a while back, there was here the option to publish this actually also here to an iPad. And we'll see where we end up with this now, because no, I just don't see the plugin now. But actually, see Revit Live actually easy to handle. Good. So having talked a lot about virtual reality, some options how we can actually present our designs with these. Keep in mind, whatever you do in Revit, it's just, the presentation is just as good as much effort you actually put in. So if you have some garbage in, you have garbage out. If you set up your materials and your lights in the right way, then it actually works well. So with the materials, you learn this maybe in your advanced training or fundamentals training. Also, if you ask the teacher and trainer, if you have on the source definitions about the lights. If you want to know more about it, it's commonly family training course to learn more about the lights and how they're actually being set up, and just to work and to operate here with the tools in the right way. And you should actually know your tools. So if you are self-taught, just double check maybe with others if you know everything, because otherwise, of course, we would miss out on productivity. And the worst thing is, what we want to do is, or the least thing we want to do is, you want to miss out on option. And the worst things we can do is we can just waste time, basically. Good. Some of the other upcoming webinars, please keep in mind that with the next webinar, we want to look a little bit deeper into interactions. We will also review a little bit again on Revit Live and see a little bit how the interaction actually works with the how I can actually develop, what interactions I can actually develop there as an example, and how I can actually develop them, and then of course interactive technology, how some of them is actually being programmed, where we can then go deep into some Unity coding, to some C# coding. But this is not that I want to smash you with a lot of code. It's just much more get a bit of a glimpse, an idea, and a feeling, and maybe also encourage you to start maybe to learn maybe programming. It makes a lot of fun, and with there are a lot of options we actually have available. Keep in mind, A2K has a couple of cool offers actually now finally become available. Here our HP headset, and actually also with the other cool wearable computer. That's pretty awesome. And so you can basically wear it in the bags, don't trip over any cables anymore, and you have it straight connected to your headset. Basically a laptop you wear over your shoulders. And so we have this actually available. Has a cool graphic card. I think a P4000 graphic card, or even a 5000. I think it's a 4000 I actually put in from NVIDIA, which does actually also which allows for some professional virtual reality experience and others. Good. So with this, thank you very much for the time, and hope you had a lot of fun with it, and thanks for listening. And yeah, just share that there are some more webcasts coming up, and hope to see you all back.